Welcome into Pallilo Points. I'm Brandon Stranger, Sports Map Houston. That guy right there, he's Charlie Pallilo of ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. If you haven't yet, please hit subscribe on the channel. We really do appreciate it. Charlie, want to talk some Rockets with you. The NBA draft approaches, and I got to say, anticipation for this amongst Rockets fans is almost on par with some of these recent playoff runs, and the excitement is intensifying because of all of the reports out there that the Rockets are interested in trading up for that number one pick. And Tuesday, those reports became more specific and intensified. A lot of reports come out that the Rockets are not only interested in that number one pick, they've been aggressive in that pursuit, that they love Cade Cunningham. And before we get into what it would take to make that happen, just give us your thoughts initially, what you think a Cunningham, Porter Jr. wall backcourt would look like for the Rockets.
I think Cunningham slides in as a 2/3, almost a point forward, right? 6'7", 6'8", with the long wingspan. You could argue that maybe Jalen Green has even greater upside with all the reports and the small clips we've seen of breathtaking athleticism and explosiveness. But Cunningham, among the top tier guys, definitely has the highest floor. I mean, he's the one guy who would be a shock if he's not a good NBA player. Evan Mobley, maybe he's just a skinny big who doesn't grow. Green's more athlete than basketball player. Maybe Suggs doesn't grow to shoot sufficiently. Cunningham has that well-rounded skill set. So here's to the Rockets for aggressively exploring it. Right? Detroit could just be saying, well, unless someone's going to give away the store, and then more after that. But the Rockets, with that trove of incoming draft picks, all the stuff from the Nets, speculative in value because you don't know where the swap rights will fall and what the Nets record will be in 2025. But they are tangible assets, plus a pick due from Detroit and a pick due from Washington and a pick due from Milwaukee. If they can give up a couple of those Nets picks and the Milwaukee number one in 2023 to get Cade Cunningham, I'm all in for that.
The Athletic this week floated out the idea of this trade, which was the Rockets trading this year's number 2, number 23, their 2022 first rounder for next year, and then Detroit's 2022 first rounder that they currently own for that number one pick. That sounds really sporty to me, just to move up one spot. I don't think personally I'd do that if I'm Rafael Stone, but the Rockets, they do love them some Cade apparently. So if they do love that, should they do it?
No, as you lay it out. And that's where Detroit can ask for the moon, the stars, a few asteroids and comets. And at some point, if you're the Rockets, I don't care how crazy you are for Cade, you say, no, we're not doing that. And the one element of the deal that as you articulated, that 2022 number one pick. Because even if the Rockets get Cade Cunningham, at best next year, they'd project to be nicely upwardly mobile to the realm of mediocre. Right, Cade Cunningham is not going to come in and be LeBron, even if he turns out to be a 5-time All-Star. There's going to be a ramping up process. Over the next couple of years, Rockets are probably going to experience some more pain, ideally on the path to pleasure, meaning that 2022 draft pick could still be a very high number one. So unless you are getting a lottery at minimum attachments to it, that, wow, the Rockets turned out to be a huge surprise, and it's the 19th pick in the first round. Okay, then I'm good for having given that up as part of the deal. But if you're talking about top 6 protection or top 8 protection, if I'm Rockets, I'm thanks, but no thanks to the Pistons. But I'm not giving no way unprotected, and I'd be loath actually to even say top 4 protected because I don't want to miss out on the top 5, top 6 pick in next year's draft to move up just one pick, even though I would prefer Cunningham to Green.
No, exactly. I think the same thing. And I think Detroit's pick's probably going to have some value to it as well. So I don't think they should let go of that either. Eric Gordon's name has been one that's been mentioned in some possible trades too. And Gordon only played 27 games last season. He's signed for not a small amount through the 2023 season and then 2023-24 contingent on performance, from what I understand. So what can the Rockets realistically expect to get back for EG at this point?
I think minimal. I mean, it's not like Chris Paul, whereas to get rid of Chris Paul under James Harden's or whoever else's orders. Right, the Rockets set their franchise back a grave ways with what they had to attach to move off from Paul to Westbrook. And then, hey, let's further downgrade a year later, Westbrook to Wall. 2 years, $36 million for an Eric Gordon who'll be 33 years old Christmas Day, who honestly is overrated as a shooter. When you look at his numbers over the last 3-4 years, he's been an above average three-point shooter once. I'm talking the whole NBA. Forget about elite level shooting. That's years in Eric Gordon's rearview mirror. Now, maybe if he goes somewhere where they actually have the cojones to tell him, stop taking those 28-footers. You're not Damian Lillard or Steph Curry, right? He's a solid player who'll defend. He's good attacking the basket. But then there's the attendance portion of the grade, not in Eric Gordon's strength. 2 years, $36 million is a lot. I'm thinking more the Rockets would have to attach an asset to dispose of Eric Gordon, and hey, let's get something good in return for him.
It's interesting how Wall would fit into these plans here. Would the Rockets look at maybe evolving him into maybe, say, a bench player to where he wouldn't have to play as many minutes? And perhaps he could play that veteran mentor role in the way that CP3 has played that veteran role with the Phoenix Suns. Do you think they would try to pursue that? And do you think that John Wall would even be open to that?
We're taking off the table, framing him for a very, very minor white-collar crime, just enough that it would allow the voiding of the contract?
Yes, let's take that off the table.
Man, I just think that Wall, as with most athletes, ego stays stronger than the body does. So for Wall to think of himself as a $45 million per season backup mentor, I'm sure he fancies himself still an elite level point guard as long as he's healthy. Well, when is he healthy? He was never playing back-to-backs. When he played, he wasn't that good. He's a lousy outside shooter. He might have improved by John Wall standards, but his overall shooting numbers were poor. He's not a stout defender. What he should be is a backup on a good team. But at $45 million per season, to me, the avenue to explore there is the buyout option. I think Wall's a solid guy, but a mentor part-time role for Kevin Porter Jr., I really don't see that in the better interest of either party.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I guess if I'm John Wall, I go, well, hey, CP3 is still a starter, so I should be able to do the same thing.
You take the buyout, then you're on the market, and come to me, contending suitors, and give me a feel for my worth and what I can add to your team. Now, he might be in for disappointment, but at least he would, in theory, have control over shopping himself to the Miamis, to the Lakers if they're off Dennis Schroeder or anyone else in play. And the Knicks are still in the market for a point guard. If they don't make the huge Damian Lillard trade, maybe a place like that.
But I guess the ironic part about it that is if he does take a role in one of those other teams, it probably still would be a diminished role. So even if he got out in a free and could go to a contender, he most likely is going to be taking a diminished role in that roster.
And what do you value? And as an individual, I'd respect if he'd rather start on a bad team that would have him than play 17 minutes per game in a complimentary role as a contender. 31 years old, raging against the dying of the light. But when John Wall was healthy and playing, he was no better than a mediocre starting point guard.